Well, one of my viewers on YouTube has asked me to do a film continuing my wildlife series, but this time using grey herons. Well, I'm at loose ends, so I thought, why not? I always try to help people out that ask me to do things. It's rather fun to do and it's nice for them. I'm going to do 3 pieces, and not just the one. I'm not just going to do the heron. I'm also going to do some waders on the beach and a barnacle goose with those. And I'm also going to do a demonstration piece in a month or so for Skegness Art Society, and I've decided here that they wanted to see something different, so I'm going to use rollers and acrylics and finish off with the paintbrushes at the end. So nearly all the work will be done with rollers at first, to show them how quickly we can work up with the rollers and acrylic paint and then finish off all the details afterwards. And I've got to do this within 2 hours. It's a very large canvas, so I won't get all of it completed, but I'll give them a very good idea in that short space of time, I hope. Anyway, here are the 3 pieces that I'm going to attempt. You can see that I've done composite photographs to make all of these up just quickly. Then we're going to concentrate this time on one of the herons at sunrise at Saltfleet marshes here. Last year when the water was very, very high and it came right up over the coastal road down to the salt flats. A rather lovely moment. I try to use as many photographs as my own as possible of all things, including the birds, whenever possible. And nearly all of these composite photographs are made up of parts of mine. So if it gives you an idea about doing that on the computer, as well as the actual techniques of painting. So here I'm going to paint the background first and then gradually work up into the details in the foreground, all in acrylics in this case. Now for the brushes I'm going to use, it'll be mainly these filberts. I do like these filberts, and amongst them I've got my rounds. So I've got a series of small rounds and filberts, nylon filberts, long handles so I can reach out and do the details, sponges for effects too if I need them. Don't need as many brushes with acrylics as I do with my watercolours. I've got a rake brush here as well for fine reed work as well that could be quite useful. With the paints, a jar of water, mixing palette and my homemade stay wet palette, you may remember this, where I've just used an ordinary sandwich box, a couple of layers of paper towel, piece of greaseproof paper, wet it, and it keeps the paints wet for weeks and weeks. These paints have been in here about 6 weeks now. Okay, let's make a start on this painting. And a bit of water first into the palette. Start with your white. Going to start with the mid-tones of the sky, then work my way up gradually. So I'm going to do this painting with acrylics then. I had originally intended with oils, but I've got the acrylics out, I may as well continue. And we want this lovely light blue sky at first, which comes from cerulean up through to the warmer blues. Our cerulean and turquoise is our coolest. Then we work up towards our cobalt and then our ultramarine. The things like the geese I've marked in, I'll leave just an indication of the white behind just to show where they should be. So let's start with our lightest colour, a little bit of the cerulean turquoise. And that's going to be around here somewhere. It always seems very strange when you start because you're starting on a white canvas, and that can throw you out totally, and at first it's going to seem probably too dark, but when we get all the colours in, they will gradually allow us to show the lighter colours against these. I'm going to take a little bit of lemon yellow and add that to it to make a slightly greener tint. A bit of lemon yellow back to a bit more white. Just on this lower edge here where the sun is just rising, giving us this beautiful, almost turquoise look. We've got clouds coming in lower down here, so I'm just going to leave the edges of those. And I want to do this while it's still wet, because otherwise we can't blend. And you'll notice also that it's slightly transparent at this stage. These blues coming right up through here. A bit more of that cerulean. Come up into there. A bit darker over this side. It gets some nice yellows glowing down lower, so I want a bit more of the yellow tint happening through here. And it'll soon dry. I'm not doing much of the pinks as yet, a bit more of the cerulean. And we get stronger as we come up here, through here. And then we'll start to gradually add some of our cobalt to it. Get a little bit bluer, stronger. Coming down here, look. So we're starting to get the feeling of the sun rising, and I'm going to do little feathery strokes to blend in these colours gradually, right down through, just leaving some of the white to show where the pink's going to come in a moment. It's going to get much warmer up here, so I'll take some more of that warmer blue, add that in there. It's much warmer up here, right round to the edges. This one's going to be framed later, I expect, so we won't bother about painting the edges. I don't normally do that anyway, unless I'm using one of the big box canvases, in which case they're quite nice to do then. Right down into here, we'll let the pinks come across here shortly. Remember to blend in these two paints before they dry too much. That gives us our foundation for the sky. Now, I want to be a little bit pinker, so I'm going to start adding in some pink, some light magenta here, the pinkness to the sky, just feathering it in again, just feathering it across, letting the dry brush work almost while it's working into this wet paint. So we're scumbling, if you like. It's not quite dry brush because the paint underneath is slightly wet. Learn these techniques and enjoy using them yourself. Right up to here, bring this pink through. Warmer colour. You can do the same with oils, the technique is the same. We can just blend them together like this, although of course the oils are going to dry slower. It's just to get the foundation colours in. Right, leave that. And while that's drying off, I'm going to deliberately come down now to the water, and we're reflecting lighter colours here and coming deeper down here. It's in a mirror. So we'll take some of that very light cerulean again and some white. Just find that across here. Doesn't have to go slightly across the birds now. You don't want to be leaving halos around things, so just go across things slightly if you're worried about doing that. But you can always paint back up to them later and add colours into it in just a moment. So a nice big brush here. I'm using a 3/4 inch long handled filbert. Vertical strokes now because I'm working more into the reflections. Usually do vertical strokes for water and then finish with horizontals afterwards. Right, we want to add some more white to that and a little bit of the lemon yellow again. Try and get this lovely light green we have. Even lighter than that in a moment. Let's get some of the darker tints in first. Coming in around the bird's legs here. And then more white because we're going to make that colour really work for us in the background over here as it reflects that area just above the clouds, sun rising. Just blending those edges. Plenty of colour, lemon yellow, white and a little touch of the cerulean. As we come down, we go back to the cerulean again, and white. We start to bring that right through here. Comes down to the reeds here. Reeds almost go totally dark just there. We'll just leave a little bit to indicate where the reeds were. Now, stronger blues. As we come down, again we're coming to this blue again. Bird's legs. Just leaving a little bit where the bird's legs are there to show where things are. Just do a grey pink blue there. All the rushes coming down into that. Stronger blue through here. And then we can start to add our ultramarine, which is going to give us this lovely rich blue. Again, we're going to put pink over this, so got more glazes to do. This isn't the final colour by any means. Paint's still just wet enough to work into, Again, you see me using these vertical strokes at the moment for the feeling of water, with some horizontals coming through them. And up here much lighter. Well, it's still wet, I just want to blend in. Now while I've got that mid grey blue on my brush, I want to start putting some cloud effects back into here, which are going to make sense because these are what are coming into the water. We're going to lighten these later. All we need at the moment is just the effect of these bits of cloud coming up when it disappears. Up into there. And there's a bit of that cloud going to come down into there when I get the orange there later. We'll just blend some of this colour into here as well. Really get the feeling of these reflected light. Again, I keep saying it, but don't make your brush strokes all horizontal in water. Keep them vertical as well. And you get the feeling of these reflections going on, as well as the little strokes outwards to feel all into that. And each painting I do should be different. There's never one sunset that I'm going to paint. There's never one painting that's going to be the same as another one. Right down into here. And a much deeper blue. There's a little bit of Prussian even coming into it now. I want a much deeper colour. A little touch of the magenta in that. Get a nice deep purple blue going on right down through into the reeds. You can see the richness that we're getting. So we're working our way down here into these darker, richer blues at the base. Still using our horizontal and vertical strokes to get the feeling of this, working it into here to get the feeling of reflection. In a moment we're going to come back and do the darks of the reeds, show you how we can get those effects very quickly. There we are, that's got those out of the way. Now a little bit of purple into that. Just come up here and work in some of this darker up here. So don't be afraid to go into the items like the birds' heads and things slightly. Now I do indeed want to make some lights, but I'm just going to be a little bit more pink first. A little touch of yellow into that. So magenta and a little touch of yellow. Be too light, almost too light. Magenta, a little touch of the yellow gold, a little bit of cadmium yellow this time, just to get this deeper pink here. It's coming back into the. Really look for the colours. Reeds are growing back there. Now let's make quite a dark little Prussian. Prussian and a little bit of red into it. And let's really go for a much stronger, richer dark coming right down this edge. So those darks break into the water. And now we're with the darks. I'm going to use a broken edge at the beginning here. Get the feeling of these. Again, bits of grasses coming out all the way down to here. So we're getting, even before as we paint in, even as we paint in these dark blocks of colour, we're starting to get texture and the feeling of these grasses. So a little bit lighter there and down here in places, because I want to leave reflected areas of grass just showing as I do the darks as well. Right, make the dark again. So the Prussian blue and the red, really nice and warm and dark. Now we go back into this, bringing these bits of dark across that light, using the tip of the brush. This is the beauty of these filberts, is that we can use them flatly or we can use them like this to give the feeling of texture. And you can see how now I'm managing to put the darks in and leaving little bits of those whites showing through, or the lighter blue, sorry I should say, showing through there. And we'll use some finer rigging brushes and things later to really get these reeds much finer than this. While I'm at it, I'll just mark in this, just map in this heron's legs. Tickling with the brush end, a slightly broken ended brush end, to get the feeling of these grasses coming out. Wet, soggy with the new rising tide, mixture of brackish water, fresh water and salt water. Much warmer still down here. I'm adding more red to it just here to make that even more browny purple, to really bring that forward. A bit more red into it, a bit more depth, three-dimensional depth, using aerial perspective, in other words using colour perspective to give the eye leading in. Right down into here again, letting that blue just glow through. Be fairly loose with your brush, let the brush make the effects, but make your marks about what you are doing. That's as far as I want to go with that. Now we'll just let that dry off a bit, and we'll come back and work on the sky again. I'll go down the brush size to a 1/2 inch. Well, the sky's dry enough to work on. It's a little bit transparent, but I want to work up these beautiful colours now, these pinks and so on, so I can start working transparently over the top like this. I'm using some white and a little bit of magenta and yellow just to get a feeling of these semi-transparent clouds working over the top. Cloud. More yellow in there. A bit of white to give it the opacity. It's very thin otherwise. There we go. You don't want them too garish, so I'm going to blend in with water and gradually let these recede. Just scumble over the surface, making the marks about the clouds, building them up in layers and layers. It's a lovely way to paint because you're actually, as I often say this, but you're actually painting with light. I know you're using paint, but it actually feels like you're painting with light. You can see how I'm playing between the pinks and the yellows, the lights and the darks. Some very strong colour in places, but we don't want to overdo it and make it look brash, so the idea is to gently and gradually bring these colours in. A bit more of the cooler yellow to go in down here, and hopefully now you start to see how the sky is starting to take effect. I still haven't quite got that glowing pink that I want, so I'm going to come back with my yellow, and a little bit of magenta, a bit of white. Just check it again. Here we are. This is the sort of colour that sunk so much. I want to get back in there again. So I'm going to thin this down in just a moment because it's sunk and thinned out so much. I'm going to just come back to the blues of that sky a little, because they've sunk quite a bit. I may just bring some of those blues back in a tad, just to brighten them up a little bit. Now, I may come back and do more work on this later, but at the moment I don't think it needs anything much more. Now I've got to come down into the water itself, and using those very light colours we were just doing, the yellow and magenta and white. Let's take a look at some of these lighter colours just going back up into the reflections here and down into the water. Sort of reflecting across gently right through here, just bits of broken colour coming through. Still need to bring these clouds up a bit. They've sunk so much each time I do them. I'm going to have to do a little bit more again, just to bring them out a bit more. I think it's gone too dark. There we are, let's just brought it back a bit. It's getting so. Now, I've got a lot of work to do yet. Start working down through the water here again. Same over here, we want the idea of ripples coming in, so I'm going to just use a little bit of the cobalt blue again, just to feel some of these ripples coming through. Almost ready to start on the birds a bit now. I'm going to take a bit of the cobalt again and start on the blue greys of the heron. Again, just doing the underpainting at the moment. Just lose the white canvas. Same with this head here. There's a little bit more yellow going on in that. Maybe a wee touch of brown. Then back to our cerulean blue again, with a tiny touch of purple into it for the back of the bird here, get the cools. Not colours that you would think. We're not using just whites and black and white and bits of grey. We're actually looking for pure colour as much as possible, especially from the reflected colours of light. We want to just play with a little bit more of the paler yellows up through there, because these colours will sink and we want to really get a lovely glow going here. Surprising is how many times I do have to build it up actually. Right, go down the brush again. And we'll start working the herons a little bit more. Let's look at this lovely, this beautiful orange we've got for the beak here. Just establish the drawing again a bit, because we've lost the drawing just a little bit on this. We need the reflection of the sun coming down around the bird. I'm going to need the sun shining on little bits of these grasses anyway. And with that Prussian mix we had earlier, we can just lighten it a fraction. We can start to make the greys of the feathers of the bird, tickling my brush, this filbert brush downwards, get the effect of these spiky fluffy feathers coming down. Darker still. Take our pure Prussian blue and some red and find these lovely darks. feathers that come down the front of the heron that aren't really showing on the photograph that I've got of it, but I know that they're there. So I've overdrawn that head, so I'm going to have to make some adjustments. It should finish here, and that beak should be just coming to there. Not as long as it is, and not as thick as it is either. So we've got some adjustments to do, but nothing major. Let's go back to this heron, the redrawing of it here. First I need to get the light going on there, which is my magenta and a little bit of white, and we'll just try and get that head drawn a bit better first. White and a little touch of yellow, just to give a very light cream to the front of the bird. Again, we're going to need more white here because this stuff is sinking so much. And we'll just let that flow down, getting more orange as it comes and more yellow as it comes down here. And there's our heron starting to come out in the light. Back to the one behind. We'll pick up that one. Again, reflected light coming around this side. Down the wing, down to the leg, and just a couple of strokes for the leg should do it. Neither too long nor too short. Get a touch of chrome yellow, orange, and then carefully bit of the dark just underneath the beak, just to point it out a bit. Okay, we're well on with the detail on that. While I'm at it, I'll just show you how I'm going to go on to the reeds later. We have to come back into here with a little brush and start to actually paint in all of these little grass stems that are against the light here, coming up against the bird. Crisscrossing, we've got the basic of it. Now we need to get in the finer details to really get the hints of these rushes, grasses and reeds growing. I could use a fine pointy brush for this, but I'm managing to use my small filbers at the moment for this fine work. It's dried off nicely. The acrylics dry very quickly anyway, and we need to get back to lightening up the sky even more. It's not far off actually. I think it needs to be a little bit lighter pink here and there, so we'll just come back to that magenta for the sky first of all, with a little touch of that lemon yellow. Come back to this pink, which is slightly lighter in the sky than I've got. Again, I want to just brighten this up a fraction with the pink. It's just coming through here. The lighter we make this, the deeper the sky will seem, of course, as well. So that's another good reason to do this. And I'm just wisping this across the... Make it a bit thinner, so I get a slight glazing to it. I'll thin this right out in a moment. I just want to this light pink. So I'm just working it into the surface of the painting so it will go dry back a bit. This rosy sunrise. I'm working these glazes up and up and up. There we are. And then of course we've got to bring those pinks down into here as well. So a little bit of white, a little bit of magenta, not too much yellow, just a little touch of the lemon again. A little bit stronger down here. I'll start bringing ripples through here. This lovely golden pink. And some of it coming through into the purple areas here. And that mistiness of this purple is actually coming down into amongst the reeds here a little bit as well. So I'm going to bring some of that purple into here amongst the blues. And that same purple is reflecting into the birds a bit as well. A bit of warmth around the neck. Trying a bit of dry brushwork of the purple just coming down. So a touch of blue, a touch of ultramarine into the purple, just to feel some of these darker areas of water over here. Now we're going to go back to my cerulean blue again, and I'm going to bring some of that cerulean back down into here again, just a little bit here and there, to lighten in between the reeds. A little touch of yellow into that, to get our greenish tint again. A bit more white. So a little bit lighter against the bird just here as well. Now, while I'm at that, it goes a lot lighter cream and yellow. I really want to make it very, very light in places. Especially over, oops, I don't know what that colour is doing in it. Especially over here. Trying to get the sparkly effect of the evening, of the morning light dappling through here. Now, just go down a smaller brush. Keep working on this and working on it until I'm happy. In the way that the light catches little bits of the reed stems as well here and there. A little touch of magenta into that same colour. Work an even lighter magenta pink through here again. The chrome yellow and magenta and white. Again, we need to get that cloud reflecting up here now. Keep playing these ripples of reflected light and really try to find these colours, these beautiful colours that are reflecting here away in the sky into the water. And really find these lighter tones coming into around the birds here. And if we're firstly looking into the sun ourselves, give us this bright not getting too flash pink, but just really do feel the colour in places. feel those darks. The purple's just coming up, rippling through the darks here. And so we're down now to starting on our details. We need to get some smaller brushes now. So I'm down now to my rigger and some round brushes and a small filbert, and we're going to actually start on the reeds in a minute. We've got the birds. Now the heron here, let's have a look at him. What I need to do to bring him out a bit. I'll take a small filbert for this. He's not far out actually. I might need a little bit more orange just into his beak here. There's the light shining through it. Just down that bit. It's rather nice just to bring that out. I'll take my small round now, and I want to make some lighter blue greys there. Take some of my cerulean and a little touch of purple. Well, there we go. Because I want to bring out some of the feathers here. Yep, slightly lighter blue again. To balance it and try it out to get it to work. Very light blue. There we go. That's the sort of blue-grey colour of the feathers just coming back. Don't want these colours to sink too much. That's the trouble there. With these acrylics is they're sinking a little bit. And on this bird, a bit more of the lighter colour around the edge here. Now I want to make a much lighter cream there, so I'll take some lemon yellow and add it to the white. So I really want to pick up the lighter colours on these birds now. A bit more white still. And let's just see if we can get that a bit lighter on the outside here. Really want to, because if I make this lighter it's going to make it seem darker behind, which is what I want at the minute. So right round that bird there like that. It's fine work. Some lovely long feathers spreading down here I want to get. But back to Mr. Heron over here, where I want to pick up a lot more light just on the back of the bird, especially on this bit here. Bring it forward. And at the front edge, right here. So now we're concentrating on our focal points, our herons. Just a bit of reflected light under here as well. Not a lot, just a little bit, just to show its roundness. Back to the darks again. Our Prussian blue and a little bit of brown, or red, either way. Doesn't really matter, as long as it's something very warm to balance it out. We can come back to our bird. A bit more of the details now. Now, talking about mixing up the darks, what I've got to do again, go back to that and work on the reeds now. And when I've got my small brush in my hand, I'll take that lovely dark we've just been using and we'll start to do a bit more with these rushes and reeds behind here. Get quite dotty down here. This is where the details really start here. Behind that it's out of focus. Lots of little strokes now. gradually bring up these reeds, feeding with these grass heads, seed heads, reeds and grasses growing here. And let's move to that rigger. A bit more blue with it. We'll see if we can start to flick in all of these lovely lines of reeds that are coming up through here. Nice long strokes. These are the very fine lines, of course, that we need for these, and I'll go back to my slightly wider round in a minute and we'll use that as well. A little bit heavier, a bit more paint into it, a bit more pigment, and we'll start to do some heavier strokes with this, some heavier lines with the rigger, by pushing just a little bit harder, masses and masses and masses of them. Back to the birds, just trying to get these colours now. To try and get the last highlights on the bird. Right, just need to finish off the bird. It's very light cream. Just around the front here. I've got a feeling we could have a bit more of this bird just reflecting down here as well. We get back from the work and we need to just see a little more of what's happening, just to get the length of the leg there and the foot to come forward that little bit more. Well, there we are. I think that's the best I want to do on that for the moment. I may do more later, but I think that's finished really. Let's take a closer look at it.